Hi, and welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. Today, I got a very, very special guest for the show, somebody who created a lot for the world. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
Sure. Hey, my name is Dave Saunders, and I'm actually currently located in Baltimore, Maryland.
Great. And can you tell me about your past leading up into your present, what you would like to highlight?
Sure. I've worked with a lot of businesses. I've done a lot of startups. I've worked with some really big businesses, and I've taken over 40 products to market in my career from, you know, idea stage all the way to then getting our first customer sale. And if we roll the calendar way back, I actually started, I left college early. That's not a unique story. You hear that kind of thing all the time. And I ended up at a little software company that was doing something with the internet. And a friend of mine,
Before you get into that, why
yeah,
did you leave college early? Because I just want a record. I want it for the record.
sure. Honestly, it was a friend of mine who had just graduated from college. He started working for this company and started calling me and he says, like, Dave, you need to come. You need to be here. We're doing some really great stuff. And everything that you already know how to do is what we need. And so I was I was a art major and computer science major. And uh, the one of the co-founders of the company sent me, I think, $2,500 to move, and
What year was this?
this was in 1989.
How did science change from 89 to now? And then you can go back to where you were.
Okay, so that's an interesting issue because I would say computer science back then, you were I don't want to offend anybody that's earning a computer science degree today, but I feel like back then you really learned science. You were under the hood and you were building a car, starting with, the little gears. You put an engine block together yourself, right? And so when you were learning how to do things like, program a computer, it wasn't just, here's Python, write a code to do this sort of thing. It was, let's think about how these individual bits are moving through the computer. And in some cases,
Don't we have bits like when we talk per how we talk?
oh, sure, you still do. All of that is still there. But when you think about a language like Python, you don't care anymore. And I think that's really cool. Most modern programming languages don't require you to really understand what's under the hood to make it work. But at the same time, think about this. When you hit the power button on your computer, how does it get started at that point? It's completely a blank slate. There's got to be some way that the first instruction is getting loaded onto that chip to start to boot your computer. That's long before any Python code's ever going to run. And when computer science used to involve that level of detail that you really understood, where's the microcontroller that's at the heart of my computer that's going to get it, that's going to initially load the first, 15 instructions. And then that's going to bring up enough of the computer to load like the next, 1,000 bytes of code and that sort of thing. And so you were very intimate with your hardware. You really understood the type of hardware that you're communicating with. And I think that's cool. It's also limiting in some ways. I think it's really neat that I can write code today that can run on a dozen different computers, and I don't care what you're running. Doesn't make. I can write one chunk of code that will come up on your Windows machine, on your Android, on your iPhone, on your tablet, on your Mac. It just runs.
And how did it used to be back in the day? It just used to be one set of type of computer.
I had to talk to your hardware. So if I wrote Mac code, probably one of the biggest deals that happened in kind of the the mid to late 1990s was this concept of a cross compiler. There was one called Bedrock from Semantic, I think, and you could write code that you could compile for Windows or Mac. It wasn't great, but it worked. And it really it expanded your market, because now suddenly you could write one application theoretically, and it would run on the two most popular platforms out there.
What does this code do though when
That
you put it in there?
So like if you're going to write like a copy of Microsoft Word,
Mm-hmm.
right? So at one point, well, even before Microsoft Word existed, there used to be the monopoly for word processors was called WordPerfect, and WordPerfect ran on probably 30 different computers. And so we've got like our little, desktop computers, but we're also talking like mainframes, IBM System 36 and DAC mini computers. There were actually versions of WordPerfect for all of those computers. People had to write individual copies of WordPerfect for the different computers, because you had to talk to the hardware to actually write the code. And so that's very limiting. If you can imagine, you've got 30 different code bases, right? And now today we can consolidate that. And with some of these new tools like Cursor and some of these new development tools, holy cow, your ability to write code that just runs anywhere is really, it truly is a revolution. I think it's quite amazing.
Did you you said you wrote for AOL. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And you were one of the first people who wrote with a group of people.
Yeah. So okay. So the first company I was with, we were actually the first commercial developers of internet software for Macs and PCs. Now that was before the internet was public. So half of the internet required you to have a security clearance to even access.
Wow. Do they
Most,
require that now?
no, I'm sure there are parts, but they're I don't know where they are. But in fact, a large chunk of the internet was run out of right here in Baltimore by one of the very first internet service providers called Digex. And they actually managed a lot of the military chunks of the internet.
So is this near NSA, near Baltimore, near the
And
Baltimore, DC area?
at the time, the NSA did not exist.
Oh, there was no
NSA,
such agency.
that's right.
Yeah.
And in fact, a friend of mine at that company was in charge of a little red bat phone that was at the University of Maryland in a closet somewhere. And if it rang, you'd pick it up and it would be that no such agency. And, here's my problem, blah, blah, blah. And you just hang up and take care of it. So, this was the Wild West days of the internet, right? And a lot of the reason that you would use personal computers to connect to the internet was to use something called Telnet, which is like you see like those old movies where you're just typing text. You connect to a mainframe computer and you're just typing commands in a basic text. That was the most common way that you were using other computers on a network or accessing them across the country. And so our customers needed that access. They would use Macs primarily. At the time, it was easier to get a Mac connected to the internet than a Windows machine. That's kind of changed since then, but now it's easier for everybody. But there
Do
were a
you
lot
think
of.
Mac is more like secure than a Windows computer?
I think Windows is under attack more
Yeah.
because there are more of them out there. So it's a
Easier to code, maybe?
I think the phrase would be a target-rich environment. If 90% of the computers that you're trying to attack on the internet are Windows, then write your virus for Windows, right? It's going to be more likely that you're going to get some old lady's social security number. I mean, that's the sad reality of it, is that's where they're just what did DB Cooper say? Why do you rob banks? He would say that's because that's where the money is. So
Where are the risks for coding? Like how easy is it to break into someone's computer?
it's a lot. Depends on how you're going to do it. From the internet, it's usually tricky. And the reason for that is most people are connected to the internet with, like, say, a cable modem, right? And then your computer connects to the cable modem. And what happens is you have something called network address translation, NAT. And what that means is your internet address on your side of the cable modem is actually fake. It's so, like, in my house, I've got all these, like, I've got like light bulbs that are connected to the internet, and my lava lamps over here. I've got way too many Alexas. That's kind of scary. All of them have individual IP addresses, right? In the old days, I would actually have to apply to, like, my internet service provider and get real IP addresses that are addressable from the outside world. That's not scalable. I've got 57 devices in my house that all have individual IP addresses.
Yeah.
And I mean, that includes things that, like, turn on the Christmas lights on and off and stuff like that. So even those little smart plugs have an IP address.
Mm-hmm.
So if you actually had to register every one of those IP addresses on the internet properly, we're going to run out of IP addresses, and that's already been a risk in the past. So instead,
What is the new upgrade from that?
So there's two ways to do this. There's a new IP address scheme called IPv6, and that actually has more IP addresses than grains of sand on the planet. So we'll never run out of IP addresses. But the easier way is this invention called NAT, Network Address Translation. And all that does is on your house side of the internet modem, you're given a special internet address that is technically fake. And by fake, I mean, like, if you were on somewhere else on the internet and you typed that IP address, it can never reach you, because it's a fake phantom address.
Okay.
So when you try to connect through your computer modem to the rest of the internet, your modem does have a real IP address. And so your computer connects to the modem, and it does network address translation. It temporarily tweaks your address to make it look like it's the modem. But basically, so every one of your devices at your house all has what looks like to the outside world one IP address.
Yes.
Now, to a hacker, that means that all of the devices at your house, who knows which one is which, right? Because you can't address them directly.
And this is IPv6?
That's just NAT, Network Address Translation. Yeah.
Okay.
And so NAT really takes, there are still ways around it for you can put malware onto, your internet toaster or whatever. But it's on your side of the network. And so it could potentially, like, start snooping around and, get passwords and things like that. So there are still issues, but it's a lot better than it could have been. If it wasn't, the funny thing is the guy who invented NAT is a friend of mine. And, when he first proposed it at the Internet Standards Group, I actually yelled at him in front of a bunch of people. I said it was a really bad idea. I said this is going to make everybody on the internet completely lazy. We're going to lose track of our IP addresses. We're going to lose all discipline for network security. And I actually saw him a couple of years ago, and he goes, Dave, how's your internet configured? And I go, yes, I'm using NAT. I know.
Yeah, that
he
is
goes,
so
he goes,
cool.
he goes, it works, doesn't it? and that's really the cool thing about it, is that it just works. It's completely transparent, and it makes it super easy for you. I said, at one point in the past, you would have actually had to go to your ISP and pay for all those individual IP addresses if you had multiple devices at your house. I used to have that. And this was in the mid 90s. I did actually have something called a Class C internet network that was assigned to my condo. And it was $2,500 a month. Now my company paid for it, thank goodness. But that's how you used to have to do it. And it's just, who wants that? That is there's no good value to it.
Can
So
I ask you something?
yeah.
Not in the government systems and quantum physics. How is quantum upgraded from digital with security and the new systems
Oh, you
coming
mean
out?
like the quantum computing?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to affect the IP addresses per se. But in terms of like, is your data encrypted?
Yes.
The risk there is that if the promise of quantum computing really does play out, and evidence is kind of looking like it will, current encryption methods, if somebody is able to capture your data as it's going over the internet, between you and Amazon for your credit card number or whatever, quantum computing should be able to just blow away your encryption like it's a little dandelion, and you're just blowing away all the little. It's kind of a weird situation, because with current encryption technologies, it would be really hard to like capture some of your data and then just blow away the encryption and hey, there's your social security number, there's your credit card number. That's pretty challenging today. But it does seem like quantum computing might make us need a different kind of encryption technology. So we'll see. The jury's still out. The thing is when you look at these quantum computers, I mean, we grew 500% capacity. Well, yeah, because you went from 1 qubit to 5 qubits in capacity, that's 500%. Okay, we're still not really running a big computer there. So we're a long ways away. But here's the thing. Mainframe computers when mainframe computers took up the size of a building, that's kind of where quantum computing is today, right? And it did not go from giant mainframes to PCs it didn't take long. It went really, really fast. You can actually Google and you can find the press release from IBM publicly stating that they thought that the personal computer was the dumbest idea that they had ever heard, that nobody would ever need to have a computer in their house. What a ridiculous concept. They wrote a press release on
Who?
IBM.
Really? This is how IBM feels?
This was decades ago, right?
Wow.
So that was when you first started to have like these little hobbyist computers. And sure, their capability was very, very limited at the time, but there were certain visionaries that said, hey, this could be something, right? And look what happened. Dell comes out of nowhere and builds these personal computers that they weighed like 20, 30 pounds, but suddenly you could put a computer on your desk. And and here's another thing. Before there were spreadsheets, the stuff that you can do in a spreadsheet, you couldn't do that on paper.
What's the future? What's the
Lotus
future?
1, 2, 3 changed the world. When you were able to like do what you can do in a spreadsheet, even the early versions, it changed the world. People were sitting down and coming up with new ways to, like, oh my gosh, I can do like financial modeling, I can do regression analysis, and you could do these things in ways that you could never have practically done in the past. It changed the world almost overnight. And when you're able to then have that computing power in your house, on your desk, in your pocket, there have been times when I've gone on business trips with my phone and a Bluetooth computer or a Bluetooth keyboard. And because of like Google Docs and Google Sheets and all of these web-based applications, I can do almost anything I need to do right there on my phone. And it's just, that's mind-blowing. The power that's in your hands to now create a company. And now we've got vibe coding, right? And vibe coding, I think, is a little, well, we're in the Wild West again, right? Today, vibe coding, I think some people are successful with it, but I've got worries about it. But another 1 or 2 years from now, you might be able to just sit down, have a little conversation with whatever chat bot you like, GPT, Gemini, Claude, whoever. It's going to be a cat and mouse game for the next couple of years. So probably, I think right now, as we're recording this, I think Gemini is now considered to be like the top of the LLMs. I guarantee next week, somebody else is going to be on top. And then the week after that, somebody else. This isn't going to end anytime soon. And that's fine because we win. You're going to be able to sit back at some point and go, I need a computer program that does this. And you'll have something very, very specific laid out in your head. And it'll go, well, let me ask you a few questions first. And you'll have a little conversation with your chatbot and it'll go, okay. Would you like this to be a graphical interface? And you're like, yeah. I want it to have a Hello Kitty theme. Oh, that's great. Pinks and purples. Oh, let's do that. And then the next thing you know, you've got this app that's ready to upload to the App Store. And anybody will be able to do that. We were talking about computer science earlier. Talk about having no idea or concern what's under the hood of your car. You won't have the slightest interest in, am I running this operating system? Am I running this operating system? Do I have this CPU? Nobody will care. You'll just tell your computer what you want to do, and it just does it. And that's incredible. And it's a marveling thing to me because I've had the wonderful opportunity of working with some of the most amazing people in technology in a couple different industries. And every time I think I've seen it all, we get a new technology advance. And I'm just like, really? Wow. One of the fields that I've been working in lately is I co-founded a surgical robotics company. I got FDA clearance for it 2 years ago. And I had the pleasure of working on it with Johns Hopkins University, which is the home of the father of surgical robotics, this guy by the name of Professor Taylor. Basically, all surgical robots that exist, one way or another, all those roads lead back to his original inventions in the field of surgical robotics decades ago. And
same as Nikola Tesla, right?
I know, right? Dr. Taylor is just an incredible visionary, and he works with dozens of professors and hundreds of students, all continuing to develop just the field of surgical and medical robotics. And the things that I see there blow my mind. And that's just one little tiny field.
What do you see?
Oh, I mean, just give you an example. If you ever needed middle ear surgery, we're going all over the place today. Here we go. If you ever needed like middle ear surgery, like say you're deaf and you need a cochlear implant, or there are other kinds of diseases where they need to actually get into your ear to work. Well, the first part of that surgery is they actually have to drill right here behind your ear through an inch and a half of bone because they kind of go diagonally. It's called the mastoid. It's the hardest bone in the human body, and
Wow.
inside of the bone there are two facial nerves. You can't see them. So the surgeons have to learn, like, there you see, kind of see signs that I think I'm getting close to the nerve. And the problem is, if you hit one of those nerves, you're using a bone saw, okay, or a bone drill. It's like a Dremel tool, costs a lot more than a Dremel tool, but it spins at 80,000 RPMs, just grinds through that bone. But you can't go too fast because we don't want to overheat the bone, because bone is made out of living cells. And if we hit one of those nerves, your patient is going to wake up either looking like they had a stroke, or the worst one is they won't ever taste savory food again. Red wine, chocolate, steak, you'll lose the sense of taste because of one of those nerves. That's the one I think people really hate. But right now, that's a very manual process, 60 to 90 minutes of drilling just to get access to the middle ear.
Do they light up the nerve so they can know where to go around it?
It's a miracle. To me, it is a miracle that they don't hit that nerve more often than they do. It does happen. And what typically, before you do skull surgery for a patient, you'll do a full CT scan of their head. And CT scan is an X-ray, so you see bones really well, right? But the nerve is embedded in the bone. So how do you see the nerve, right?
Exactly.
You can't.
Exactly.
What I have seen in research, this isn't commercialized, but I have seen research where we've taken the CT scans and we've given it to a little artificial intelligence, subroutine, machine learning, really. And it actually creates a 3D reconstruction of the CT scan, and it finds the nerves. So then the cool part is, now you're drilling. You can see when you're drilling, you usually look through a surgical microscope. So you've got like these little, things up against your eyes. And the surgical microscopes are digital, which means that with a computer, I could inject extra image data to the surgical microscope and I can give you augmented reality. And so
Get out of
I've seen
here.
research where we take the nerves that were found in the CT scan and we overlay them with what the surgeon sees as they go through the surgical microscope. So that way you have X-ray vision and you can see those nerves and you can more safely do the drilling to get access to the patient's middle ear. Now, this is something that probably we'll see, maybe it might be a few more years before we see this commercially, but this is the kind of technology that's available. And here's the funny part, at least it's funny to me. These research projects that I have watched are typically done by students, because I mean that's the idea, right? You want the student to learn these things, and that's how they're getting their own advanced degrees, by taking all of this technology another step forward. And these students are doing these things, X-ray vision with a CT scan into a patient's bones, and they're doing it on laptops that like their parents gave them when they were like freshmen just entering college in their first year. There was one student whose laptop was literally held together with duct tape. And yet it's powerful enough to do this. So imagine what will happen in the future when you've got like the next generation NVIDIA GPU, they're getting smaller now. You stick one of those into a surgical robot. It's got, optics for the surgical microscope portion, and it has all this computing power to make these kinds of calculations and truly give the surgeon superpowers. I mean,
Yeah.
that is amazing. And, when we talk about like starting a business, the crazy thing about this is a lot of this technology gets patented and it goes to the technology transfer office. Like, so MIT, Stanford, really just about, University of Maryland, pretty much any university has a technology transfer office where they have taken student research, turned it into patents, and they're now waiting for entrepreneurs to come along and commercialize that technology. I have seen technologies in demo form that would absolutely change the world of healthcare. I mean, we're talking miracle technologies, and they're just sitting on a shelf because there aren't enough entrepreneurs to go around and actually license these technologies and commercialize them. There's so much out there.
I agree.
So many opportunities. And that's the great thing about having a business, about having a startup, is ideas. If you can't come up with your own idea, you can find ideas. That's the easy part. The real trick is going to then be execution, figuring out how to do what you want to do, how to build that product, how to bring it to market, how to build a team to help you do it. Right. And that's really I think that's really the true challenge. And it's the most exciting part. So, if you've got somebody out there that's like, oh man, I want to start my own business, but I have no idea what to do. The ideas are easy. It's all about execution. And I even used to tell this, I worked with some people who are like, they'd get a little paranoid. They're like, well, what if somebody finds out that we're working on this? I'm like, dude, I'll give them the plans. I don't care. I go, we have the execution team. We've got 5 years a head start because we know what we're doing. We know more about this technology. We know more about, our customers or whatever. We've done so much homework that even if somebody came in and took all of our plan, here's your idea for, this is what your product's going to be. I'm like, no, we can out execute them. The idea isn't the hard part. It's execution. And that's a good thing, because anybody can learn how to execute. I'm not a roboticist. I'm not an electrical engineer. I've had absolute pleasure of working with some amazing technologists and people, but I'm the nerd that knows how to do products. That's my superpower. And that's what's super fun. I just have to understand what they know. Like, what do you see about this? What is this that gets you so excited? And once I get that under my skin, it's like, oh, and then I start talking to potential customers and I'm like, well, what are we going to do here? And
Well, I have a question to ask
yeah,
you. I wanted to know how, because we're running out of time. So
sorry.
that's okay. If you need to, we can do a part two. I don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll change my shirt so it looks like, time passed.
Yeah. I wanted to know, where do you see yourself with the enhancement of augmented reality?
I mean, everything depends on where it gets used. I think in the field where I've been paying attention the most, augmented reality, especially in surgery,
Mhm.
is incredible, because a lot of surgeries, here's the big picture. Old school surgery, they cut you open, right?
Mhm.
It's called open surgery. Like, the incisions are big, the scars are big, infection risk is really high, right? But now you've got these more minimally invasive approaches where they just make like a couple small little incisions and then they stick rods in to your body, right? And they do the surgeries through that way. Well, how do you see inside your body if the hole is only big enough to stick the instrument in, right? And so we need new technologies to help the surgeon see better inside the patient, to make it easier to do these minimally invasive procedures. Because if you ever have a choice, and I hope you don't, but if you ever do need a major surgery and your options are open surgery versus, we'll do it with the Da Vinci and we'll do it with a, laparoscopic surgery, minimally invasive, choose minimally invasive surgery. smaller incision, less time to, sometimes you go right home right after the surgery, right? Um, your infection risk is much, much lower. All of there's so many benefits to minimally invasive surgery, but it's harder for the surgeon to do it. So by giving the surgeon better tools through augmented reality, better vision, computer machine learning to like, kind of, maybe put little tags or heads up displays, just like your favorite video game, right? Bring all of that into surgery. What's going to happen is more surgeons that are perfectly trained, they know their gross anatomy, they know where all your organs are, they know all that stuff, but they may not have the magic hands to do those high precision, minimally invasive surgeries. Surgical robotics and tools like virtual reality and augmented reality, those help all of those surgeons move over into minimally invasive surgery. That's a huge opportunity because the more surgeons that can do those procedures, the more patients that benefit. We all win. And that's a big, big benefit. And I think you're going to see a lot of opportunities there as well. There's a startup that does drones that go into these big fields where they've got all of the windmills for power generation, and the drones automatically go from one to another and inspect them and fly across the blades and just make sure there's no cracks and do all that inspection. All of that is done while a person is safely sitting on the ground looking at a video screen, verifying the results.
I just want to say one thing. To me, I feel like we're in a simulation, like something could be controlling us in a similar way. So,
doesn't it feel like it?
Yeah, I wanted to know, how can the people reach you?
You can find me at davesaunders.net. I've got some new books that are coming out, and so that's a great place to catch up with me, get some more news. I've got some video programs that are coming out as well. But I'm just happy. In fact, if you sign up for my mailing list, you can actually just hit reply, and I read those messages. So anybody out there, if you're looking for tips or just want to brainstorm or something like that, I'm actually pretty easy to get a hold of. And I want to help people because I think we've got so many great opportunities to build businesses for ourselves and to build teams with people we love, and really make a difference in the world and make an impact. 5-person company, it doesn't have to be you don't have to build the next giant conglomerate. Just build a company that serves your area, provides a great service, and does it with love. And I think it's a wonderful thing. It's not always easy, but it's something that anybody can learn how to do. And I think it's a great opportunity for absolutely anyone.
Thank you so much, Dave. Stay on the line. Thank you guys for joining my show today. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you guys later.